In this short episode, we are going to cover our attempt at moor, with an anchor at the bow and two stern lines either to a town quay or a city wall, in an unfamiliar port called Port of Sami, located in Catalonia, the Ionian side of the Greece. Now, since we started cruising in Greece, we have done this maneuver multiple times. But what was special about this one was that we didn't have any dock help. You can usually count on other fellow sailors or cruisers or even people walking by to help you with your dock lines, but in this case, we were on our own. So I did my best to cover all the bases, but if you think I left some important things out, please do comment them in the comment section below so other sailors, cruisers, and charterers can benefit from it. We bought a sailboat in the Med in 2020 and started cruising shortly after. After exploring the stunning northern Adriatic, we decided to sail south and explore Montenegro and Greece, and eventually end up in Turkey for the winter. At the time of the passage, the Corinth Canal was closed due to landslides, so we have to take the long way around the southern Peloponnese. The overall passage is about 1100 nautical miles, and we have no intention to rush the experience. If you're planning on visiting an unfamiliar port, we highly recommend that you gather as much information as you can to get familiar with that port you're visiting. Pilot books and applications like Navly are excellent resources for that. For this part of the world, we highly recommend the Greek Waters Pilot and the Ionian Pilot book by Rod and Lucinda Heikel. We also find reviews from other cruisers on applications like Navly or Navionics extremely helpful. Try to have an understanding of where you can and you cannot dock before you enter the breakwater. Assign crew responsibilities and communicate what each person will be doing, including the skipper. In our case, we are short-handed for the work ahead of us. Ideally, we would like to have a third hand for stepping off the boat or a dock hand to catch our lines. Rig stern lines long enough to double. Put fenders on both sides, including the stern. Make sure the bitter end of your ground tackle is attached to the boat. I have seen unfortunate and embarrassing examples of boats losing their ground tackle completely because of this. It is paramount that you are familiar with your ground tackle and how much chain you have. I find it difficult to judge the amount of chain required for the maneuver. In a couple of occasions, our 60-meter chain, which is standard in most charter boats, was not long enough. When entering the breakwater, watch for the signs relative to the true wind direction and strength, such as stationary flags or banners. Some of the spots on the town quay are reserved for local boats and day trippers. They are usually marked, but if they aren't, you have to refer to your pilot book or previous reviews from applications like Navly to understand where you can dock or where you cannot. These day trippers and the local boats, they will return at the end of the day. And if you are in their spot, they will make you move. When approaching breakwater, watch for traffic, especially boats laying or picking up anchors. Remember, they have limited maneuverability. Observe the town quay for officials and listen for a whistle, which is used regularly by port attendants in Greece and Turkey to get skippers' attention. If one present, listen to their instruction on where to dock. Make your mind around where you want to dock. In this case, I picked the lee of the most leeward boat, so if we get pushed by the crosswind, we have room to recover.
Before we start our maneuvering back into the town quay, one thing we like to do is get close to the town quay and do a flyby to understand how other boats around us lay their chain on the seabed.
Given I have only Danielle and no remote anchor control, Danielle will be operating the windlass at the bow, and I have to steer CB back into the town quay. Once I feel she is stable, one of us needs to step off the boat and tie the windward line. No need to speed up. As a matter of fact, I will recommend slowest speed where you maintain your steerage. There has been a lot of discussion relative to dropping your anchor upwind. I have seen few boats following this practice, and almost all of them ended up with crossed anchors. So my recommendation is against it. Here you can see Danielle scanning the shoreline for potential dock help. Our goal here is to lay our chain as parallel as we can relative to our immediate neighbors. I like to tilt my bow upwind before I start backing in, knowing the wind will straighten the boat as I reverse. Prep your anchor by dropping it slightly, maybe a foot or so, to ensure it's free of the bow roller and ready to go.
Okay.
Another important tip I learned is give time for your anchor to touch the seabed and rest before you start reversing. Dropping your anchor while reversing, especially in high speed, significantly reduces the chances of your anchor digging into the seabed. And more importantly, it increases the chances of fouling other ground tackle, as you most likely will be dragging your anchor on the seabed covered with chains and anchors. While backing in, you must maintain your steerage. Remember, the chain you're laying does affect how your boat behaves, so use your throttle sensibly. Although it may sound like a nerve-wracking maneuver, there is a silver lining with using your ground tackle as you back in. Most prominent is the fact your bow is more stable, which is a tremendous help. Depending on the conditions, we usually stop laying the chain about a boat length from the wall. This will allow us to cast pretty close to the dock. From there, you have your throttle to get closer to the wall if needed. Here you can clearly see, even with the help from the weight of the chain and the anchor, how my bow falls downwind. In retrospect, I probably should have waited to Danielle to come back and step off the boat with the stern line. But in this case, I felt safe enough to step off myself. Once you're off the boat, secure the windward line first.
It's neutral.
If you find yourself in a situation where your boat won't reach the quay because you ran out of the chain, You have to go out and collect your anchor and start from the beginning. That is nothing to be embarrassed about. And this is what I meant with stern lines long enough to double.
Well, that was great. I would know how.
Once you secure both stern lines, pick up some chain until it's tight. Alright, pick up. Pick up until it tightens. Okay, stop. Well, you may ask how much chain is right. My answer is as much as conditions allow. More chain you lay, better holding you have. But you are increasing the chances of crossing your anchor. If the case, be mindful of other vessels on the opposite side of the quay and orientation of their grand tackle and proximity to yours. Check in with your immediate neighbors to find out when they're departing, and be present when they do. On a town quay like this, I will not recommend leaving your boat unattended for a long period of time. The main concern here is the departing boats lifting your anchor, and also the arriving ones crossing your chain. The last step is the riga snubber to take the load off your gypsy, and you are ready for a cold beer.